Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. A couple interesting things today to start with. First of all, as you can see, I'm not in my studio, and I'm not.
You've been on the go a lot lately.
We'll have to have a little series. Where is Rich this week?
Yeah, right.
So I'm in Vail, Colorado. Linda, my wife, and I are up for kind of 4 or 5 days to just enjoy each other, get in the Word together,
Nice.
pray together, process stuff together, and for me to do a little skiing.
Good for you. Now, does Linda doesn't ski? She'll hang out in the lodge and enjoy, or what does she do while you're skiing?
She'll hang out and I'll ski because in Colorado, for residents who are here and can go skiing, you buy a season pass and it's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah.
So because you have a season pass, there's two things that are critical for the way I ski. One, is it a decent day weather-wise?
Right.
If it's
I am only a fair weather skier.
If it's too cold, if it's windy, it's like, I'll just wait till tomorrow, And then two is that there's no need to ski all day to get my money's worth.
Right, right.
Yeah, I'll ski for an hour or two and enjoy, 5 or 6 runs, and then I'll quit and do it again later tomorrow. So I don't spend a whole day skiing. I just spend 2 or 3 hours usually at the most.
Right.
Skiing, and then she'll spend time in the Word or do something, reading of something, and then we'll come back and spend the day together. So
nice.
Great snow up
spring skiing.
here.
I was going to say spring skiing used to always be my favorite.
Yeah.
I remember going to A Basin well into May when we were in college. We could ski A Basin and be up there, and you could be in short sleeves, it was just beautiful. As long as you weren't falling, you were great. Yeah.
So I brought my portable studio with me, and you and I had to work at getting all the technology to work. And get the lighting is always tricky in a place like this, so we had to work on that. And anyway, here we are. And then secondly, and this will be for the audience, this is now going to be aired Tuesday, April the 19th. The last time you heard us say we were last week going to air Monday the 18th, and my admin, Morgan, who does a fantastic job. She's the one that load everything up. So what we do is we tape. I then have to technically split off the audio and the video so that for the Spotify and the Apple podcast audio, I load it up in the Dropbox and send it, which is many gigs of stuff. I send it to her. And then she loads it up into Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And I send her the dates and all that. And so what I had written was slightly different than what she had. And so she let me know this last week that said, well, I'm actually a day ahead of you on the loading it up. And so you need to get back in sync with her. Okay, so we have one more than I thought. And this is not Monday. This is Tuesday. And when we said last week you'll see Monday, you will have actually seen that on Monday.
Right. Yeah. So it's a little off. Just.
So whatever it is, it's sequential, and hopefully you're enjoying it. And we're there. So we're taping from a new place for me, and then a new date to start with. So there we are. So we've been talking about the covenant, and the covenant, remember, is a simple, beautiful thing called God's promise to us, characterized as a promise, an agreement, covenant, And he's going to bless us to make us a blessing.
Right.
And that's to everybody. We learn.
And that comes back from Genesis 12, right?
Yeah, Genesis 12. And then it continues on. The covenant is everlasting.
Mm-hmm.
It's performed in the kingdom. And then for the New Testament, there is a new covenant, and we'll get into that a little bit deeper, not to replace the covenant, but to make it even more powerful, because Christ is now the recipient of it, which we talked about last time. And it gives the argument of the promise isn't to seeds or plural, just because you're a believer, it's to Christ. And then Christ passes on issues, the promise is, and what he has to say to us of the deliverance of the covenant to us, and we just have to be with him. And so there's a promise, an absolute that I'm available. God says, I'm available to give you this, and it's universal. It's all the time. I promise you this. You can trust the promise. That's part of the beauty of the covenant, is that he's going to promise us something. Well, one of the questions that we had, which is what I explored, was, okay, but what exactly are you promising that we can trust and we can live with? And so he tells us. The first one is interesting enough. It's that, and this is so profound, it's going to go past us, so to speak. But he says, the promise is the covenant, and I'm going to deliver you to the covenant. And one of the promises that I'm going to give you is that I will absolutely be loyal to and deliver the covenant. And I promise you that. So I'm promising you that I'm going to promise that it's going to happen. And so it's like, wow, that's amazing. So let's look at that. The first one is his loyalty to the covenant. And so read Psalm 111, 5-9.
He has given food to those who fear him. He will be ever mindful of his covenant. He has declared to his people the power of his works in giving them the heritage of the nations. The works of his hands are verity and justice, and his precepts are sure. They stand fast forever and ever and are done in truth and uprightness. He has sent redemption to his people. He has commanded his covenant forever. Holy and awesome is his name.
Yeah. So he makes a statement that everlasting love. The word everlasting love is the same thing as loyal to the covenant loyalty. The word mercy in the Old Testament is most of the time it's covenant loyalty. I'm loyal to the covenant. And when he says I'm loyal to the covenant, it means that you can count on that his nature, his heart, his viewpoint toward us is covenant. It's all the time, every time, and absolute. And he says, you can make sure that my promise is I'm promising to be loyal to the covenant.
And that really speaks to his character, character trait of faithfulness.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So it's his faithfulness that he speaks to us, and he says that as a result of that, and as we try to put this stuff together, he says, well, you're living in a difficult place. The world is a difficult place. It's a destructive place. It's under the control of the enemy. Kill, steal, and destroy. Entropy. Everything is falling apart. In the world, Jesus said, as we keep speaking, you're going to have trouble, pressure, difficulty, situations. He says, but what I want to do is restore to you back with a life of blessing in order to you to be blessed. And the elements is the superabundant life, the elements of what God had originally set up, these exceptional things in life, I'd like to give you. And he says, because I'm loyal to it. He says, you don't even have to ask me if that's going to happen. See, he says it's absolute. And the promise is I'm so loyal to it that you start there with your issue. You start there with your problem. You start there with, I've got a sticky wicket. I've got something that happened to me. I lost something. Even, by the way, when we caused it.
Right.
because we weren't following him. We went our own way, and he said it didn't work out too well for you. And when we realize it and say, okay, I'm ready to go, he says, well, you don't have to ask me. Am I going to deliver this to you? Because, otherwise it's arbitrary. And people kind of think, yeah, some people are lucky and some people aren't. Right. God is kind of deciding, nah, I'm not giving that to you. I'm giving that to somebody else, but I'm not giving that to you. And he says, no, in this verse, he says two things. I'm ever mindful of the covenant. I'm ever mindful of the covenant. Okay, what does that mean? It's on my mind. My desire, my nature is always and every time covenant. And then he says, I will command the covenant. Okay, now, when he says command, what does that mean?
That it will happen.
It's going to happen.
There's no question, yes.
See, it doesn't say, and that's why Scripture is so critical, that we look at the words and what do they mean and what are they. He didn't say, I'll suggest the covenant. Mm-hmm. I'll offer the covenant if.
Right.
I'll decide based upon my will whether I'll give you the covenant or not. No, he says
but there is condition in being with him.
Well,
but that is the only condition.
To
correct?
receive it. And we'll get into this. We're going to get into this as we go down the road here. There is a condition. Because remember, the is a two-party agreement.
Right.
So both of us have to fulfill our role. Mm-hmm. And what God is saying is, I'm loyal. I can deliver my part all the time, every time. And it's all the time for everything you got going. So when you have a problem, when you have an issue of, man, I got this problem at work and it's not coming together and I wonder what's going to happen. He said, well, begin with, I'm loyal to the covenant. I'm going to bless you to make you a blessing. Now, at that point, and this is where the difficulty is, I don't know how. Right. I don't know when. And I don't know
and we can't dictate that.
And I can't dictate that. And I wonder, how, because I can't figure out how. And God says, well, all I said is I'm going to.
Right.
I didn't say when. I didn't say how it's going to happen. I didn't say what the outcome's going to be. Just do you trust me that I'm going to bless you to make you a blessing, which means you'll take it all the way through. So that I didn't fully understand this all, but I did understand a little bit of it. But when I was working for a Fortune 500 company, I was a young executive, 29 years old. I became senior vice president of a division, $750 million.
That's a young senior VP.
Yeah, running a $750 million division. And it was a big deal. Well, in a Fortune 500 company, generally speaking, everybody who works, particularly at that level, they kind of are, in a sense, overworking because they think there's so much to do, and I gotta stay and get it done.
Well, and there's even the image they want to present that they can't have other people working more or longer than them.
That's right.
And look less important or something.
Yeah, and particularly because I was the top guy. I wasn't the ultimate top guy because I reported to a group president, but I was the top guy. And a lot of the top guys, like you said, well, they have it at a badge of honor that look at how much I work, and you that work for me, you should do that too.
Right.
We also,
and if you want to prove yourself, you need to look like this.
Yeah. Now, one thing I did, I saw this right away, and it's still true today in the work that we do. I could have worked 24 hours a day, and I couldn't get it all done. I mean, it's just every company, particularly a company
there would always be more
that you just can't get it all done. So what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to trust God for my personal career, that it's going to be blessed to be a blessing. And I didn't fully, receive or understand that fullness, other than I was going to have a good life with God. So what I did is I basically went to work at 7:30 in the morning, and then I quit at 5:30. I left.
Yeah.
At that time, remember, and this is, most people would say, can't even fathom this, but there wasn't such thing as a computer.
Right. So when you were home, you were home.
I was home, and there
And
wasn't cell phones and text and emails and so when I left, I went home. But I decided I'm going to ask God for wisdom. I'm going to ask God for favor, and the outcome was going to be His. And I'm going to put in these hours, and that's it. And when I went home, I didn't work. I didn't work weekends.
Right.
If my boss, and I even thought this and believed it, if my boss said, you got to work more, I would have said, no, I'm not doing it. I would have said, go ahead and fire me. I'm not doing it. Or if my results didn't meet budget, and we're growing at $100 million a year.
Right.
And think about how much that has to happen to grow $100 million a year. That's a big number, And
That's
so
amazing. Yeah.
So to be able to even get those results is like, it might not work, So they could come to me and say, yeah, you got to work more hours to get these results, and we're not happy, and so we're going to let you go. My answer would have been, okay.
Right.
Because, and I didn't understand what the essence of the loyalty to the covenant meant, but I believed that if that's what happened, that didn't mean the end of my blessed life. It just means that God had something else behind it.
Right.
That He was going to lead me to. Because the covenant is, to me personally, not interesting enough even to my company. It's my walk with Him. And if He's loyal to it, I start every thought, I start every issue, I start every pursuit of, man, I got a problem, or I got, how do I work this? And God says, well, you can believe, trust, and stand that I'm loyal to the covenant. It's going to happen. Come with me now and see. And that's the issue. And we'll see later what that looks like, but I got to be willing to do that. Okay.
That's a great, as you described that, I just want to highlight, you're talking about a really a life default position.
Yeah.
We've talked before about that. Even when we come to something in scripture that we don't understand or we're not experienced as truth, our default position is His word is true.
Right.
And so that's where we start everything and then process from there. And you're really saying there's another default position here. Right. He is faithful to the covenant. That's right. The default. So when I'm not experiencing it or understanding or believing it, I go to the default and I work from that point and allow Him to grow that in me. Correct?
Yeah. Because I'm not wondering, well, is this problem going to get resolved?
Right.
Am I going to overcome this loss? Am I going to overcome this issue? The answer is yeah, it's going to happen.
Because based on who He is, it's based on His character, right. His word, His faithfulness.
Yeah.
Therefore, that can be our default.
Yeah. This ought to be interesting, right?
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. So go ahead and read Psalm 85:7. He says it in a different way here. Psalm 85:7.
Right. Psalm 85:7 says, "Show us your mercy, Lord, and grant us your salvation."
Yeah. The word mercy is covenant loyalty. So what we're saying there, David is praying, well, show me. And the word show is demonstrate, make real, make it so, your covenant loyalty.
Right.
Reveal that to me so that I get the fullness of salvation, the wholeness of God. And our prayer is, again, I'm loyal to the covenant. Father, would you show me that so that I can live that way, as you say, that default position?
Yeah.
May I receive that that's a promise to me. Okay, read Psalm 49-11. And this is the one where it says, I'm going to get you past being stuck in the mud. What does Psalm 49-11 say?
I have proclaimed the good news of righteousness in the great assembly. Indeed, I do not restrain my lips, O Lord. You yourself know. I have not hidden your righteousness within my heart. I have declared your faithfulness and your salvation. I have not concealed your loving kindness or your truth from the great assembly. Do not withhold your tender mercies from me, O Lord. Let your loving kindness and your truth continually preserve me.
Okay. So he says, I have not failed to communicate loving kindness. Remember, the Hebrew word for loving kindness is covenant loyalty.
Right.
Is I'm loyal to the covenant. I haven't failed to reflect and tell other people it's so. And by the way, he ends it by saying, by the way, would you continue to preserve me with that truth?
Right.
Okay, now think about this. If I can speak that,
Mm-hmm.
and I can communicate that to the body around me, the group around me,
Right.
that he's loyal to the covenant, on what basis could I speak that?
You can only speak that if you're experiencing it.
Only if I've seen it happen
Mm-hmm.
in reality where, hey, I got a sticky wicket. I got a problem. I got an issue. Father, you said you're loyal to the covenant, which means I'm going to be blessed to be a blessing. You're going to resolve this. I come to you and ask you to do it. Guess what? It happened to such a level. See, that I don't even share. I can just share, well, hey, I got a cool thing happen to me.
Right.
And we call those testimonies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a cool thing happen to me. Okay, not only can I share that, but I'm going to say something even more deeper and more profound. Hey, guess what? God is loyal to the covenant, and I've experienced it over and over and over again. It is so. And by the way, you can trust it. Come on. That's what we're trying to say right here to everybody. Hey, by the way, the reason we say this is because it's so. We're not talking theoretically.
It's something we know by experience.
We know.
Yeah.
And we've had trouble. We've had issues. I'll share one in a second. And then end it with Psalm 23:6. We know this one. The Lord is my shepherd. But he ends it with an interesting statement. Psalm 23:6.
Says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Yeah. And the word mercy is covenant loyalty. Surely goodness, abundant life of God, and his loyalty to the covenant is going to follow. Now, this is cool. Is going to follow me all the days of my life. Okay, so here's what he says. It's always available to you. It's there.
Good.
It's following you all. I'm urging you, which goes back to the Psalm 23:1. Let me be your shepherd.
Right.
If you let me be my shepherd, it's there, and all you have to do is receive it because it's always there. It's always there. It's not kinda arbitrary once in a while, perhaps. It will follow you all your life for you to enjoy it. And he says, I would like you to receive it because it's there. I am loyal to the covenant. So just recently, I've had a situation where, and other people might probably have this once in a while, but I've got audited by the IRS.
Oh, joy.
And there was something that they needed information about my house that I built it in 2007. Well, I haven't kept records of that.
Right.
I've dumped them all because I was always assuming that there's a 3 to 4 year rule that after 3 to 4 years they can't even audit you anymore. Well, they did.
So this is they're auditing all the way back to 2007?
Well, because they needed information about the cost of the house. And
wow.
Well, I don't have the records.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I could do is I can prove that I built it from scratch, and that I did have the bank that lent what's called a construction loan to be able to build it. They had a verification. They didn't have any detail, but they had a verification that yes, this is how much it was used, and this is what it was used for. It's used for the construction of the house. So I had a proof, kind of a proof.
Right.
Okay. Well, they rejected it.
Interesting.
They said it doesn't technically meet the condition. We're not going to give you any credit at all. So even though we know the house is there and we can see it's physically there, we are going to give you no credit the fact that you actually paid for that house, which didn't make sense. But that was technically that was the rule. My accountant said, "Yeah, that's technically the rule," and I said, "Well, I don't like that." Now, basically, it's not fair because it's kind of stretching the nth degree of a stupid technical thing,
right,
and overlooking the obvious. Right. So Linda and I, we get this, and I'm gonna have to pay quite a bit of money for the tax that they said I owed. So we went and we went to these verses, and said, "Look, God, you're loyal to the covenant. You say you're ever mindful of it. You can deliver it. We got a problem here. I need some resolution. I don't know how. Right now, it doesn't look good, but you said. So we're coming to you. Guide us, lead us. What do you want us to do?" So my accountant, who's the guy handling it, just this week, he called me up and said, "Hey, guess what? I got to the supervisor of the agent that wouldn't allow this."
Right.
And the supervisor looked at it and said, yeah, you know what? Okay. Yeah, it doesn't technically meet it, but I'm going to allow it because I can see
it's logical.
I can see that that's fair and equitable, and he's good. So he got released. So it was, yay God, and so it was, again, I can testify, and I can tell you, you and I can both tell you story after story after story after story. Am I exempt from the trouble? No.
Right.
Was it fair? No. Was it absurd? Yes. But I couldn't do anything about it. Literally, I couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
Because I'm in the hands of somebody else who's kind of self-centered and wants to prove something. Okay, Father, you're loyal to the covenant. What are you going to do? Now, by the way, he could have delivered it in a different way. He could have said, yeah, they're going to charge you this. How about if I bless you financially and I just pay for it?
Right.
Okay. See, I didn't say how.
Yeah. But you knew he would be faithful.
I said, this ought to be interesting because you're loyal, faithful to the covenant. I can trust it, because surely goodness and covenant loyalty are going to follow me all the days of my life. He's ever mindful of the covenant. He can I believe he commanded it.
Right.
And had somebody's eyes open up and say, yeah, you know what, this is a better way to go. And I'm the recipient of that. And that, and I can speak it. So as this interesting truth, God says, well, one of my promises is that my promise is absolute truth.
Right. That's awesome.
It's a double promise, is that I promise to promise that it's true. Great, fantastic. So it's such a beautiful thing to learn, and may we receive it and really get it. And I just pray that everybody would begin, particularly for those that say, you know what, I don't know, I don't experience what you just said.
Right.
So I'm not so sure about that. And I said, I understand. Why don't you take the truth of Scripture, take these verses, and say, well, God, you said, and here's my situation. And I'm going to look to you to deliver what you just said. Right. And start there.
And that would be a great place to spend some time just abiding and allow God, author and finisher, allow him to grow this in you and to grow your belief in it and to really spend some time pressing in and letting him show it to you.
Yeah, because that's how it works, is that if you abide in it, receive it, process it, even with a healthy, in a sense, skepticism, he'll prove it to you.
Right.
And then you'll say, man, look at this. I want to do more of this. And guess what? You'll be like David. I can declare in the assembly of the believers.
Right.
So.
But you are,
It's so. And guess what? Other people will say, well, is that possible for me? Yes. Why? It's absolute. He's loyal to the covenant. So I pray that you'll receive it, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow, which I believe is going to be Wednesday.
It's now going to be Wednesday,
right? the 20th. So we'll pray about that. So anyway, Kathy, we will see you next week, and we'll be excited for it.
Great. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Hope you have a blessed day.
Yep. All right.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.